Good evening, ghouls and fiends. Welcome back to a married edition of the Ministry of Horror. I'm your host, Tez, and we've been away from here, from the MOH HQ, for quite a while now, on account of your boy's been to Las Vegas and got married. Now, I should preface the fact that it wasn't a Vegas wedding. We didn't get married by by Elvis. It wasn't a little white chapel. No, it was an outdoor venue. It was lovely. But yes, we are married. There is no more 90 slay fiance, as it's a million-year wife. So we haven't thought of a new name for that. Yeah, in terms of 90 slay fiance, we're going to revisit how all that works because, you know, with the wedding planning, trying to then do an additional show for both of us because, you know, my wife did everything for the wedding planning, it was just sort of proving impossible. So I am going to revisit the drawing board for bonus shows for Patreon because I do want to actually push on with Patreon, and I want to give people, you know, some value for money because I appreciate that. I appreciate support for the show, but obviously where I've not been here for a month and where bonus shows have been spotty at best, you know, you could validly raise question marks, which would be, you know, perfectly valid to raise, of course. So I'm going to be looking at boosting that and giving Patreon a little bit of a proper go. We're no longer saving for a wedding. We're now recovering from the wedding. So being on the road in America for a month is expensive. But it was incredible. So I'll start off by saying what we're going to be talking about on the show, and then we'll get into the preamble, which will be a big old preamble because there's a lot to talk about. But I hope everyone who has stuck with the show, been listening to the older shows, been checking out the TikTok, because even though I haven't been able to post that much, it's been going crazy. Like one of my rankings of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre films, which wasn't even a video, it was just a photo slideshow, is closing on 20,000 views, which is just it blows my mind. But yeah, we're getting close to 800 followers on TikTok. So if you haven't already, search for Ministry of Horror on TikTok. You'll see the logo. Outside of that, so yeah, I'm getting sidetracked again. For the show, we have some horror news we'll go through. Not a huge amount of horror news, but we then have reviews. I have managed to watch some films either since I've been back or while I was away. And I'll maybe throw in a little bonus retro-y. Actually, no, we'll do that for Patreon. I was going to say we'll do a bonus retro-y review of In the Mouth of Madness because while I was away, I had delivered the 4K Arrow release of it, and I managed to watch that pretty much as soon as I got back. But, oh yeah, we should also talk about my thoughts on horror TV. There's too much going on. I should have prepared a bit more. Anyway. Potential bonus episode In the Mouth of Madness on Patreon. We'll look at that. But no, we got horror news. I managed to watch while I was away. I Know What You Did Last Summer, the new film, because that is available on Netflix in America, because Netflix in the UK, by comparison, sucks ass. I also finally got around to watching Strange Harvest, which I got sent an early access for, but again, been very difficult while I've been away, so I was very keen to watch it, but it's hard to do content while you're on the road and whatnot. But I also managed to go to a cinema in America. Of course I did, and I went to watch Black Phone 2. So my reviews for those will be on a bit later on. Before I get into the preamble, though, because I will no doubt forget, we haven't really, I don't think, talked about Alien Earth. I did like the odd episode discussion on TikTok, and I think on the God, what's it called? Discord. Mind fart. On the Discord, we've sort of talked about it, but oh yeah, I need to have a sip of my drink. That's the other thing that I did crazily in America. We'll get into it. Was mugs. We got mugs pretty much wherever we went, and we then had to transport back loads of mugs. And bear in mind, I'm the only one that drinks hot drinks in the house, so I've got my pick of drinking items. Anyway, Alien Earth. So overall, I did enjoy the show. I wasn't a big fan of the finale. I think its strengths as a series were the first couple of episodes, and then either episode 4 or 5, the flashback episode on the whatever the ship was called. I thought that was quite good. It was very good. I think with the Xenomorph, while the show looked incredible from, you know, a budget standpoint, the Xenomorph certainly looked more man in suit than the old films did. And when I've had this discussion with my friend Tom, and he's like, "Yeah, but that's just like the films." It's like, yeah, it is, but those films are very old now in comparison. This is very new, and I much prefer man in suit to CGI. But when it's so incredibly well lit and there's a lot of daytime shots, it's difficult to suspend your disbelief. So, and also the aspect of one, it being deemed more like a pet. At first, I was just like, oh great, so the bringing back the Terror of the Xenomorph, and now it's a overhyped pet. What? But at the same point, I do understand from a narrative aspect that would make it even more attractive for a company like Weyland-Yutani. And the whole point of the Alien films, from their perspective, is, well, we want to capture it and put it into our biological weapons facility. And surely you would only really seriously be looking at doing that if you had some form of evidence that it could be weaponized, it could be controlled to an extent. So that I did find kind of interesting. The flip side of that is Mary, I think her name was, or the character's name, who is like the lead child robot cyborg replacement thing. Which I do also think, that are they actually going to address the fact that they couldn't actually transfer their consciousness because the kid's dead? Like, that's not actually going to be possible. It would be copying their memories. Like, I think that's what I gathered from it. That it's not just a case of they have actually transferred the human consciousness from a child into an android, but more so. Well, actually, I don't know, because there's that one girl who goes a bit nutty. I don't know. Maybe I'm getting confused there and reading too much into it. But the lead girl, lady, who seems to just have all the powers and just knows how to do everything with controlling the computers, controlling all the alarm systems, speaking to the alien, all that stuff. Like, it's interesting to an extent, but it does also get into that ground of cinematic armor or Deus Ex Machina, where how are we going to get out of the situation? Oh, well, I can do it. Oh, I've got that ability. I just know how to do these things. It's a bit convenient, but I don't know. I'm interested to see where it goes. I think overall as a show, I did enjoy it. I thought it was a nice entry into the series overall, and it was much better than I was anticipating it being. And again, the first couple of episodes I thought were really good. And the needle drops at the end, a little bit jarring on the first episode because I'm just not used to having, rock music in an alien property. But by the end of it, I did look forward to seeing what song was going to be used next. And generally, they're all songs I like, really. So I think I would overall give the series like a 7 out of 10, just because I thought like it wasn't brilliant start to finish. It was entertaining. It was a decent watch. There weren't any major things that made me think, oh, fuck this. But, overall it was decent. And then Welcome to Derry. Welcome to Derry debuted whilst I was just flying back from America, and that was incredible. The CGI, you have to have CGI for something where it's a malevolent being that can represent the fears of children before trying to eat them. It's better than some CGI that we see recently in things that looks kind of shonky, but it's also, it is very over the top, but it's in the same style as the It films, Chapter 1, Chapter 2. I'm enjoying it so far. I certainly was not expecting that ending for Episode 1. I mean, Episode 1 did not hold back from start to finish. And Episode 2 is quite, it's interesting, laying the groundwork and gathering why there's this military importance with the characters, with Hanlon and the chap who's in The Shining, whose name I forget, because I'm not really awake. I need to have more coffee, really. Yeah, overall, I actually thought it was really, really, really quite a good start to the series. So I'm interested to see where it goes. We haven't seen Pennywise proper yet. We've seen obviously the entity, but we haven't actually seen proper Pennywise. And I hear that you don't till much later in the series, but then it's full on. So interested to see where that goes. Okay, so I'll talk about the wedding and honeymoon now. I realise I've rambled for 10 minutes already, and we've got a show to get on with. But obviously, I've been away for a month. Mans has been eating. Man's been eating, but surprisingly has not actually put that much weight on. I put on a little bit of weight. Not that much. Very surprising, I must say. Yeah, we went to Vegas. Vegas was a real trip, incredibly expensive, as you would expect. But I managed to win a little bit of money playing blackjack and 1 round or 2 rounds of roulette. But yeah, I was very sensible with the gambling. I bet very low. I then consistently won, like lost maybe 2 hands, but consistently won, but kept my bets very low. So 2 times I turned $25 into like $70 or $80 each time. So came out with a profit, which is good. Didn't really lose any money. So that was fun. And then the wedding was very emotional. The wedding is online. There is a link that family and friends will have seen. So it's not widespread because it's quite a private thing, but the wedding is online. Yeah, I cried a lot because there's a lot of emotional things, stuff about people that couldn't be there, and all that stuff, and also marrying the woman I love. It's a very emotional day. The party was awesome. Yeah, got cut short a bit, the reception, which we were is what it is. Can't do anything about that now, but we had an after party, and a number of us got incredibly hammered, so that was awesome. Following on from there, we then hit the road. We went to Zion for a couple of nights. That was incredible. Just this cabin up in the hills, and it's just so calm, and Utah is a beautiful state. Going across then to Moab, where we stayed in this kind of like in this tent. It was glamping, not camping, but glamping. But that was very cool. Staying under the stars, eating s'mores. Like s'mores became like our road snack at a couple of locations. So that was awesome. We then saw the sunrise at Arches National Park. Victoria had also driven through Zion National Park, and Victoria is a champ. She did 95% of the driving. I did offer quite a few times, but I think she could tell that she's more experienced driving in America. I am not at all at that stage experienced. I did get a few hours in later on, and near the end of it, I did a good bit of driving by myself. But in terms of the long haul drives, when it's over, like I think on one drive I did an hour and a half, another drive I did 2.5, maybe close to 3, but that was it. She on one day did 12 hours. Overall, there's a few stops for the toilet and food and whatnot, but yeah, 12-hour drive. She is a legend. So yeah, we did Moab. Went to watch the sunrise at Arches National Park. We then drove over to Colorado to stay with some family friends. That was just absolutely insane. We then also visited some other family friends who had come to the wedding. So none of these people I'd only sort of met for the first time, or I'd met a handful of times. But yeah, create a huge impact on us. And yeah, there's I'll just sort of mention now. I won't go into details, but while the trip overall was incredible, there was a loss of a guest later on, which is really, really traumatic. So my heart goes out to the family. Again, I won't name names because it's not appropriate, but the heart goes out to the family, and they're lovely people, and I wish them all the best. Tragic time. And then we also experienced a loss, but again, I won't talk about that because it's not appropriate to sort of air that online. But yeah, someone very close to us is no longer with us. So that is all I'll say, and we love them very much. So Colorado, we stayed with these family friends in the mountains in this like cabin that was like a mansion. It was incredible. They had their own wine cellar. They had their own artillery. We went shooting. That was amazing. We went driving around on ATVs around the mountains. It was amazing. The alcohol hits you different up there. Like I had 1 scotch and I felt hammered after 1 scotch. Normally it's about 2 or 3, but no, it's 1. We then went across to Colorado Springs and did Pikes Peak Cog Railway, which we went up to like an elevation of 15,000 feet above sea level. There was like a winter storm up there. It was mind-blowing. When we came back, Victoria had got like altitude sickness, which was quite scary, so she had to have this can of like... they sell cans of oxygen because it can happen, obviously. It's different altitude. We then left... Oh no, I might have skipped a step here. I think in between we went to Estes Park. Victoria drove through the Rocky Mountains, Rocky Mountain National Park, again a huge elevation. We then went to Estes Park and went to the Shining Hotel, the Stanley Hotel in Estes Park. They allow me to fly my drone there. So check out on social media, on Instagram, TikTok, Ministry of Horror, but also on Instagram, Tez Elliott, TEZZELLIOTT. I did, where possible, do a bit of vlogging or posting things here and there. It's difficult because you want to be in the moment, but where we have long drives, I could do a little bit of posting and editing while Victoria was driving. So they allow me to fly my drone there, and the hotel looks incredible from the outside. You go inside and you're like, oh wow, and they filmed the mini-series there, and Stephen King stayed there in the 70s once for his inspiration for The Shining, but the film wasn't filmed there. That's something that just has to be clear. So it doesn't look inside like the film. But anyway, the hotel room kind of sucked, I'm going to be honest. It was like really quite janky, really thin walls, and there's a lot of running around and people being dickheads. So Victoria didn't get any sleep really, and I sleep with earplugs in, so I was fine. But yeah, it wasn't great there, and the food, the meal was nice, but it was very expensive, and the service was really bad. They had like one waiter doing like 10 tables, and yeah, we had to wait like 25 minutes just to get the check. That was bad. We then did the Shining Hotel, the Shining tour, haunted tour. The theatric tour, the theatrics of it was just a guy occasionally shouting, and he was doing his best, bless him, but yeah, that wasn't that good. So that was a little bit like, okay, glad we've done it, because I can say that I stayed at the Shining Hotel as a horror fan, a Kubrick fan, a Stephen King mega fan. That's cool, but I'm not going to sugarcoat it. It wasn't actually that good, especially for the price. From there, we then went to Colorado Springs, did the Cog Railway. Drove through some lovely towns. Like, America is just, in the hours that it would take to drive from the UK up to Scotland, you wouldn't see a huge amount of variety. I mean, you would when you get to Scotland, I imagine. I've never been, but in that same time in America, you just see so much changing landscape. Like, it's like you're driving through different countries every state. It's just enormous. So Colorado Springs, we then went to Amarillo, Texas, went and had dinner at the Big Texan. I got hammered. Yeah, I'm not going to drink much now that I'm home. I mean, there's a little bit of a conflict there, which I'll get to very, very shortly. So yeah, in terms of the drinking, I went to the Big Texan, had a huge steak. That was great. We then went to Oklahoma, which we had a little bit of a bad experience there. The hotel was great, but we had a bit of a bad experience there. We then went from there to Dallas, Texas, which I was very excited for. We're going to be doing a haunted tour. Neither of us really liked Dallas. I think we both had come to the realization that we really liked the homely aspect of states like Colorado and things like that, and Dallas was really, really, really busy. And at that point, we'd been on the road doing these long hour drives. Victoria doing long hour drives. I did an hour and a half at this point. Long hour drives, getting to a location, getting all our various suitcases out. I mean, at this point, we had so many suitcases because we had all of our wedding stuff. We had our being on the road for a month. But we had to keep cycling through the different carry-ons, so then we're not having to unload quite so much, because it does get exhausting. Get to a hotel, get your bags out, then try and do something while you're there, and it's, yeah. So at this point, things were getting a bit like, the road was getting a bit tough. We then went to the Cheer State National Park and stayed at a cabin in the mountains of Alabama for 3 nights, and that was great. I mean, we had a few bits and bobs, like the roads up there were quite kind of hairy, but we had a nice Olive Garden lunch because the town wasn't too far away. We had a really nice rustic cabin, no Wi-Fi, which is what it is. But but no, I got to fly my drone there as well and got some cool footage, and that was incredible. We then went from there to the next big drive to Orlando. Stayed at a Disney adjacent Hilton hotel, went to Disney Springs, had an enormous baked Alaskan s'mores dinner, which was ridiculous. I think I put a post up about it on Instagram. But the food there was great. Went around Disney Springs. Following day, we did Animal Kingdom and Magic Kingdom. Now, what I will mention, so we'd arranged for me to have a mobility scooter. If people know me, I'll just simply say I have one of my ankles or one of my legs is very, very weak due to birth. So long walks are just really well. Any sort of walking for more than 20 minutes is difficult, but I do my best, and I suffer through it because whatever. But we got a mobility scooter for me, and that was great because it meant that I could get around these parks in as little pain as possible. But holy shit, Disney adults. Oh my god. And I think part of the issue was we started doing the parks at the weekend. I think hindsight that might have been that's just how it had to work out because of how we booked the only period we could book the cabin. So we get to the park early, we did the rope drop, whatever it's called. And people are just like in laser focus mode and will push past you. Bear in mind, I'm in a mobility scooter. They don't give a fuck. They will push past you and just zoom in ahead because we've got to get there first. Like, I mean, there's still going to be other people. Like, what is this? Anyway, the first thing we did was, which we'd heard is the first thing to do, is the Avatar ride. There's like a roller coaster ride there. So we start heading in that direction. It's there's a lot going on and whatnot. And we'd gotten up really early, and Victoria didn't want to do that. She doesn't really like roller coasters. She prefers what she would say is the kid rides, or the dark rides and the shows. Which is fair enough. You like what you like. I'm not a huge roller coaster head. I like to do the odd one here and there, but I certainly wouldn't want to do all the roller coasters, and I didn't. So we head towards it. I join the queue. The queue just forms around me. So I've gone there. I've headed to the queue, and these people have just gone, well, we're just going to queue around you, and the queue's now extending massively back before you can even turn around in your chair. And Victoria's like, that's not right. Like, do you want me to say something? I went, no. And because I'm not a hugely confrontational person, like if I've got my back up, sure, I will kick off. But in those sort of instances where I don't even really want attention drawn on me anyway, because it's you feel self-conscious, you sort of feel like a bit of a spectacle, which is it's just a getting in your own head sort of issue. But I just went, no, I'm okay. She goes, do you not want to go on the ride though? Like, we can ignore these assholes and just join the queue further back, or you did have a place. I just didn't want to. I was like, no, I'm all right. And it's one of those things I haven't really thought about until now when I'm talking about it. But it is just like you get a greater appreciation for the fact like how overlooked the less abled are. And like, I normally don't think too much about it because I sort of just try to go, I don't want the attention, so I'll fight through the pain or do whatever. But then when you're in that situation, you just see how many people have such disregard because they're just so focused on their own thing, which is, I think, incredibly selfish. Like, bulldozing ahead. I just think, wow, eye-opening. But anyway, we didn't let it get us down. We went and did the safari. We did these other rides. We then went to Magic Kingdom. I can't remember what rides we did there. And then we watched the fireworks, which was really, really cool. Following day, we had the day off to then go to Halloween Horror Nights. So this is what you probably will want on a horror show, because I'm almost half an hour in on this preamble. And Halloween Horror Nights was awesome. To begin with, I was a bit like, because I didn't want to use the scooter. I wanted to be... I'd had the experience of the day before where people are just like bulldozing past you, and I didn't want that. I wanted to be at my normal height and my normal level and just be immersed. But it is a lot of walking, and we ended up doing like over 8 miles of walking in the evening, and I did suffer for it the next day. Like, I'd had to have a lot of medication. I will shout out to Advil. In America, they have different pain meds that you can't get over the counter here in the UK. Advil Dual Action is a fucking godsend. So UK Parliament, get that readily available in pharmacies, please. Thank you. Yeah, so we got in, we did loads of walking. At this point as well, I should say, Mans started buying merch. This one here is a Dark Universe, but we'll get to that. I mentioned about the mugs, but I will say we'd visited a Hot Topic, we visited a bookstore, Barnes and Noble. I'd started the honeymoon being very frugal. The frugality came off, and initially it's like, oh, you sort of feel bad, but at the same point it's like, your honeymoon, enjoy yourself. So I bought a fuck ton of t-shirts and hoodies and stuff in Hot Topic. So I've got like a Welcome to Derry t-shirt, which has also got Welcome to Derry cardigan, which in the winter months you'll be seeing that on this show. It's very nice. Lots of Terrifier stuff. We get into Halloween Horror Nights, and straight away, like we tried to get there early, but there'd been we had some hold-ups and whatnot, and blah blah blah, and traffic, whatever. We got in there. And I'm straight away like, fucking hell, it looks it's so much busier than when I went in 2019. So neither of us like big crowds much, is what it is. You have to deal with it. But that was one thing. We went straight to the Terrify house because I sort of figured that's probably going to be the most popular. Almost straight away, it was saying queue lengths of, I think, 50 minutes, which then soon became 140 minutes. So I don't think it was 140 when we first joined it, but it was big. We'd gone past this opening, this table, and they were saying, they're selling these lightning passes. So skip the queues, and you'll save like 60% on queue time, $300. And I just thought, I've never wanted to entertain the idea of lightning passes because I think you spend so much money getting into the park, to then spend practically double that, to double your initial payment essentially, just for the ability to skip queues. I didn't want to do that. But we joined the Terrifier queue, and it's like, fucking hell. We've been here like 45 minutes, we've barely moved, and it's just draining the enjoyment for me. So, Victoria's like, look, they also had these passes. I can go back and look at the lightning passes, but they also had these other passes, which a bit cheaper, about a third cheaper, but they give you lightning pass access only after 11 p.m. And initially, I'd sort of poo-pooed it because, it's like, we don't really want to be here super late. We've got an early start tomorrow. But I was getting a bit despondent. So she suggested it again, and I said, okay, well, yeah, Okay, so she went while I stayed in the queue just to see if they still had these passes. So bless her. Thank you again to my incredible wife. I don't know if she'll listen to this because I don't know if she listens to the show, but anyone that does, be sure to message Victoria and tell her, oh, he said some lovely things about you. They'll probably think, oh, he must have been... She'll probably assume then that I've been taking the piss, but I've not at all. Lovely woman. I love her. She's my wife. Anyway, she goes off to get these passes. I'm then getting a bit despondent because as we eventually go to meet up to watch this circus, and the circus was incredible, I'm walking along going, there's not even that much horror stuff here. Like, what the fuck? She, on the other hand, has been absolutely terrified because it turns out she'd gone through a terror walk area. I didn't even know where the terror walk areas were, but I'd gone just down a general pathway, a normal pathway. She'd gone down the terror walk where actors with chainsaws and vampires and whatnot are jumping out and scaring the crap out of her. So anyway, we go watch this show. The show was really, really good. It's called like Circus of Decay or The Flesh of Decay, something like that. Don't skip out on it. The shows, I would say, with the parks are things that I've never really watched before, entertained, because you just think rides, but the shows are really, really worth it, I would say. We then went on the Men in Black ride because we had time to kill, got some food. The passes then came into use at 11 o'clock. And I think prior to that, we'd actually joined a normal queue, and we'd gone and done the WWE Revenge of the Wyatts, or whatever it's called, the Wyatt 6. That was very good. So it's nice to see a bit of WWE mixed in with the horror. Terrifying House, fucking awesome. And also just like the queue, the lightning queue pass, or the lightning queue lane is so much better. It is so much better. It's expensive, and I don't think I'd ever really be able to do it again. We only were able to do it because we had incredibly generous wedding guests and people gifting, to the wedding. So thank you very much, everyone that did. Yeah, and so that was amazing. I then did the Jason universe, which was amazing. Really, really good. Very accurate settings for like the first 4 films. You had Jasons from all of the films, so it wasn't just, whatever the Apple side of Jason is now. It was accurate to the Jason Friday the 13th world, and they had an actress as the mum coming out and all that good stuff. His shack from the second film, really, really good. I then went to the Fallout house, which is all right, but at this point we've gone around a bit, and I was struggling. I'd been fighting through the pain, but I got to a point where I was like, it's getting bad. And Victoria's done all of this walking throughout 2 parks yesterday, and this park as well. So her feet were just generally always going to then be hurting. Anyone's, if they're doing 3 parks in 2 days, are going to hurt. So we headed off. Following day, we did Island of Adventure, Universal. and Universal Studios. I bought more merch. I also bought my Visit Amity Island Jaws mug. And Victoria's a huge Jaws fan. So she got a Jaws vest. I got a Jaws hat. I've been buying some baseball hats. I've been buying a lot of merch on this honeymoon, all right? And I got this baseball hat, and I was like, yeah. I've also skipped out. Basically, I keep forgetting about it. We did the Haunted Museum in Vegas, Zach Bagan's Haunted Museum. Regardless of if you like Ghost Adventures, which my sister's a huge fan of, but me, my sister, and Alicia, good friend of Victoria, we went to the Haunted Mansion. Or Haunted Museum, I should say. I keep getting it wrong. Haunted Museum in Vegas. It's brilliant. Really, really well worth it. If you like supernatural stuff, if you like true crime, I loved it. We all loved it. Brilliant. So shout out to the Haunted Museum in Vegas. Anyway, picked up this Jaws baseball hat. I was like, oh yeah, this is cool. It's like Jaws. It's like a denim look. There's like a kind of a shark bite design on the front. Really, really cool. I'm going to put it on straight away because I'm just going to be a flipping nerd. We go in, I see the Hulk ride. Now, the Hulk ride I hadn't gone on previously when I went to Universal or Island of Adventures, but this time I thought, I'm going to be a brave boy, because I'd done the Tron ride at Disney. It was very good, very, very quick, but it's very, very fast. So I enjoyed that as much as it's terrifying. Went on the Hulk ride, as I went on as a single rider, because Vix didn't want to do it. I left her my phone and my wallet. Didn't take my hat off, though, did I? Went up to the ride, and there is a video of this, a video of what happened on Instagram and TikTok. Got on the ride. No mentions on this ride of take your hats off. Other rides will say any sort of hats, take them off. This one, no. Ride shoots up. My hat goes flying off. It's gone within the first 5 seconds of the ride. I get off the ride, trundle over to Vix, and she goes, "Oh, did you get my messages? Did you get my messages? Someone lost their hat. Like, where, did you put yours in a locker?" And I went, "You've got my phone. Well, how would I get messages?" And she goes, "Yeah, someone's hat went flying off. Like, I think it's up there, like, in the netting that's like 50, 60 feet above us." And I went, "Yeah, that was my hat." I had the best baseball hat for all of 5 to 10 minutes. I then bought another one because I'm a fucking idiot, but it's a great hat. Because there's no way to get it down. Anyway, that was funny. So yeah, Island of Adventures, Universal. We trundled around, did a couple of rides. That was great. Following day, we then went to Epic Universe, and I did the Dark Universe Frankenstein ride, which is like animatronics, and it's kind of like an indoor kind of roller coaster, but it's more simulated. But it's very, very good. Very good story. Really good animatronics in that one. And the whole Dark Universe world was really cool. Disney World, the Marvel, fucking hell, Nintendo World, which is the first world, was really, really busy. Like, it was very, very busy at this park. So we didn't really go on that many rides, but it was good to see. And then, yeah, from there we went down to Cape Coral in Florida to stay with our parents for a few nights, and very, very thankful for them to putting us up, and got to go out on the boat a couple of times. Really, really good. Got back to the UK, as I said earlier on, there was, a tragedy in the family. I'll leave it at that. I don't want to go into details, but a very, very sad ending to the honeymoon. And Friday night, so this recording this on Sunday, the 2nd of November. So Friday night being Halloween, me, James, and Tom, and Harry, good friends here, went to the Howl, which I did last year. Got very drunk. The rooms I don't think were as good as the last couple of years, but I mean, they weren't bad, but I don't think were quite as effective for the scares. But overall, we had a great time. Got very drunk. And here we are. We're back, Ministry of Horror, 33 minutes in. So let's just jump into the news. I don't have the news thing. Apparently, I seem to have lost the news music. I'll have to look into that, but... as with some recent shows, we won't have any additional music, but Scream 7 trailer. This is from bloodydisgusting.com for our horror news. Scream 7 trailer. Sidney Prescott battles Ghostface alongside daughter Tatum Prescott. John Squires writes, Scream 7 will be slashing its way into theatres on February 27th to 2026, and Paramount has unleashed the official trailer in celebration of Halloween Eve. Watch it down below. Neve Campbell is back as Sidney Prescott, with the character taking centre stage in the 7th instalment, and she'll be joined by returning players including David Arquette, Courtney Cox, Scott Foley and Matthew Lillard, with Mason Gooding and Jasmine Savoy Brown also set to reprise their roles from the previous 2 instalments. Here's the new plot synopsis. When a new ghost-faced killer emerges in the quiet town where Sidney Prescott has built a new life, her darkest fears are realised as her daughter becomes the next target. Determined to protect her family, Sidney must face the horrors of her past to put an end to the bloodshed once and for all. This particular ghost-face, he's gonna burn it all down. Set 2 years after Scream 6, Scream 7 is being directed by original screenwriter Kevin Williamson, but from a script by Guy Busick and Williamson. The cast for next year's Scream 7 also includes Anna Camp, Joel McHale, McKenna Grace, Michelle Randolph, Jimmy Tatro, Asa Germain, Celeste O'Connor, Sam Reichner, Ethan Embry, Tim Simmons, and Mark Consuelos. So, I enjoyed the trailer for this. I know that there's like a bit of a thing at the moment now online of people in protest sharing spoilers. I've seen some things and I'll just try to ignore them because I will watch it. I understand that if you feel strongly about topics, then, you can have an impact by not watching or speaking out on it. And I'm not going to ever take away people's rights to say what they feel strongly about, of course. But at the same point, there are going to be those of us who just want to watch the films because we're fans of the series, regardless of who is behind the camera, who's making decisions, whether it's the studio, whether it's the filmmakers, whatever. But I know that there's been a lot of controversy with the casting changes because of certain things going on and comments made by actresses and actors, whatever. It is what it is. There's always going to be cast changes in films for various reasons. But for me, I don't want to see spoilers. So yeah, I don't know. I think protesting by revealing things online is a bit petulant, personally, because then it's just like, well, okay, so you've looked into what actually happens and you've got no interest in watching the film because of your feelings on the decisions that have been made, sure. But then to go, well, F it, all of you can now know what actually happens because I don't want to watch it. It's a bit like I'm just going to try and put off people how I can from watching it. I don't know. I think it's petulant personally, but I will be watching Scream 7 because I liked Scream 6 and Scream 5 was decent. Next up, Keeper. Kojima, Del Toro, Wan, Bong Joon-ho and more rave about mysterious Osgood Perkins movie. John Squires writes, Keeper, the dark new nightmare from director Osgood Perkins, Longlegs the Monkey, is completely wrapped up in top-secret fashion at the moment, with a mysterious marketing campaign and only a select few being given the chance to screen it ahead of release. The whole idea is to keep the movie a mystery, which is something Neon has gotten very good at. But a handful of people have seen Osgood Perkins' Keeper, namely a host of horror masters in their own right who have nothing but good things to say about the movie. We're talking the likes of Hideo Kojima, Guillermo del Toro, James Wan, Damien Leone, and Bong Joon-ho. And we've collected together their rave reviews to whet your appetite for Perkins' latest trip. James Wan calls the film a terrifying descent into madness, while Guillermo del Toro calls Keeper horror origami that skillfully folds into itself. Hideo Kojima describes Perkins as a new wizard of horror, and Eli Roth compares Keeper to a surreal David Lynch movie. Here's a selection of rave reviews from some of today's top horror filmmakers, which should be more than enough to get every horror fan hyped about the mysterious new movie. Once again, Osgood Perkins blends new fear and surprise. He is the wizard of horror, Hideo Kojima. Keeper is pure Osgood Perkins, horror origami that skillfully folds into itself, shifting shapes, mutating comedy into horror and horror into human drama, Guillermo del Toro. A terrifying ghostly descent into madness, James Wan. A twisted vision, Osgood Perkins further establishes himself as a formidable voice in horror, Damien Leone. Both haunting and hypnotic, Keeper is a sensory experience of pure terror, Fede Alvarez. So I've seen the trailer for this. It does look good. Yeah, Osgood Perkins, I really dug Longlegs. I thought Longlegs was brilliant. I thought the marketing for Longlegs was incredible. And the film, it did a good job of, not disappointing. Obviously when a film gets hyped as the scariest film in 30 years, it's like it's never going to live up to that. That's always a bit of a poison chalice, I feel. But overall, I really dug Longlegs. The Monkey was a disappointment. It was, because the short story from Stephen King is genuinely a really creepy short story from Skeleton Crew or Night Shift. I think it's Skeleton Crew. And the film had this weird blend of horror and comedy, and the deaths were good and entertaining at times, but overall, and also I didn't think the lead actor was actually that good, Theo James. Not to say overall I don't think he's very good. I haven't really seen him in much, but in the dual role, I didn't think he was great. So I can't say I'm an Osgood Perkins fan as of yet, in the same way that I can with Ty West and Ari Aster, although I've not seen his last two films, so I need to hold judgment on saying that. But anyway, I think the trailer for this does look very, very interesting. It doesn't really give much away, so I like that it's, we're going into it as pretty much a mystery. That's what I liked about Longlegs and Barbarian. You didn't really know too much about the story going into it. Probably a little bit more of Longlegs, but there we go. And then finally, interesting, new single-player details revealed for Halloween the video game, Mike Wilson writes. We're officially less than a year away from Ilphonic and Gun Interactive's Halloween the video game. So as a taste of things to come, and because it's literally Halloween, the devs have revealed new details on the single-player story mode in Halloween. While the multiplayer-driven fundamentals that Ilphonic are known for are still critical components to the design philosophy of the studio, Halloween marks a turn into the realm of more traditional single-player story content. The story focuses on Michael Myers after having escaped Smith's Grove Sanitarium, allowing players to experience the night he came home from an entirely different perspective. Things such as how did Michael manage to escape from the sanitarium and what actually happened at Phelps' garage are explored through these series of defined single-player chapters. In addition to reliving unforgettable film moments with familiar faces, the single-player story mode in Halloween will also feature new locations and scenes, introducing our brand new cast of Haddonfield civilians who serve as playable characters in the game's multiplayer component. Ilphonic aims to deliver a compelling and authentic Halloween single-player experience that matches the meticulous cadence of the original film, while empowering players to help shape the narrative. Going even further, the team aims to encourage replayability with the single-player mode's sandbox-driven gameplay. That involves multiple difficulty levels, optional objectives, secret collectibles, and even multiple endings that are determined by the actions players take throughout their journey into Haddonfield. Halloween the video game will launch on PS5, Xbox Series, and PC via Steam and the Epic Games Store on September 8th. Yeah, I mean, it's what I expected, to be honest. It's kind of what I've been saying, all along. The story mode is just going to be a version of the Evil Dead story mode, where it's not a story, it's basically the chapters, where it's like, here's this level, here are your tasks, and it is a video game, of course, but I guess I've been conditioned by games like The Last of Us and tons of other narrative-focused games, where this is probably more akin to Evil Dead, or even, and I suppose it shouldn't always be a negative, but like Space Marines 2. I really enjoyed that, but I mean, ultimately it did feel like a single-player version of a multiplayer game, because the levels were... It was more about the gameplay than it was the story. The levels were just drop into this location, clear out the enemies, go to this next part, clear out the enemies. It was rinse and repeat, but it was fun. So I shouldn't write this off completely straight away, but because I was hyped to see a single-player mode in Evil Dead, and it very quickly was just like, it's not a story. It's not a story mode. It's basically just go to this area, pick up this. Oh no, there's deadites. Kill the deadites. Blah, blah, blah. And I guess I just have to compare this to the release information that's come out for Hellraiser, where Hellraiser just looks initially, I mean, it might end up being garbage, but it looks initially like it ticks all the boxes of, here is a story-focused, immersive experience, as opposed to Chapter 1, find this item. Oh, to find this item, you have to kill 25 versions of this thing in here. It's if you're playing as Michael Myers as well, who's meant to be the boogeyman, who's meant to be the bad guy, you're empowering the bad guy, and so you're then being tasked with stealth, most likely. I don't like stealth, really. I'm not a big stealth fan. Stalk and slash, and kill 5 teenagers, whatever it is. It's gonna be like that. I just know it, and I don't want to think that way because I love the Halloween franchise. You know, I've talked about that ad nauseum. But like, I'd want a Halloween game personally, selfishly, to be more like what the Hellraiser announcement's been like. You know, Hellraiser isn't even a series I'm a massive, massive fan of. I've grown a greater appreciation for it over the years. You know, Part 1, I used to love Part 2 more than Part 1. Now I do think Part 1 is right up there. Part 3, disliked it a bit the first time I saw it. It's quite fun now. Part 4, better on a rewatch. I haven't brought myself to watch the later sequels, some of which I've still not seen yet, but you catch my drift. Anyway, that ramble is it for the horror news. Let's get into the reviews, starting off with 2025, I Know What You Did Last Summer. American slasher film directed by Jennifer Caitlin Robinson, co-wrote the screenplay with Sam Lansky from a story by Leah McKendrick and Robinson. The 4th installment in the series and a sequel to I Still Know What You Did Last Summer. Stars Madeline Klein, Chase Sue Wonders, Jonah Hauer-King, Tyreek Withers, Sarah Pidgeon, Billy Campbell, Gabriette Bachelet and Austin Nichols, with Freddie Prinze Jr. and Jennifer Love Hewitt reprising their roles as Ray Bronson and Julia James from the first 2 films. The film takes place 27 years after the Tower Bay murders in the second film, with another hook-wielding killer appears and begins targeting a group of friends 1 year after they covered up a car crash in which they killed someone. Okay, so as with all our reviews, we'll talk a little bit about the plot, we'll then get into the highs and lows, and I will give the score I will give the film a score out of 10. Okay. You might be gathering from my my hesitance of my thoughts maybe on this, but anyway. July 4th, 2024, Ava Brooks visits her hometown of Southport, North Carolina for her best friend Danica Richards' engagement party. Afterward, Ava's ex Milo Griffin, and Danica's fiancé Teddy Spencer drive to see the fireworks, inviting their estranged friend Stevie Ward, who had recently left drug rehab. While parked on a winding cliffside road, Teddy causes a car driven by Sam Cooper to swerve off the cliff. Ava urges them to call the police, but Teddy swears them all to secrecy and involves his politician father, Grant, to cover up the accident. 1 year later, Ava returns home for Danica's bridal shower. She also reunites with Milo and Stevie and meets true crime podcaster Tyler Trevino, who is in Southport to research the killing spree conducted by fisherman Ben Willis in 1997. At the party, Danica receives a threatening note reading, "I know what you did last summer." Okay. So I was interested to watch this. I never got around to seeing it at the cinema because it came out at the same sort of time as quite a few horror films. We were also getting closer to leaving for the wedding, and so, you know, I had to be picky and choosy with what I got to see at the cinema because, you know, you have to be responsible. There's, you know, more important things than spending money on cinema tickets when you've got a abroad wedding coming up. So I was then quite pleased to see this was on Netflix when we had stopped off in Florida, and gave it a watch. This has tonally more in line, I suppose, with I'll Always Know What You Did Last Summer than the first 2. And I know that that's really kind of bad, and it's not like a terrible film, but like the acting is quite poor. The writing is really quite poor in places. The guy playing Teddy is basically just playing Ryan Philippe's character from the first film, like it's a carbon copy, really. It is, like, in terms of before the accident or before the tragedy and after tragedy, it's the same character, basically. Yeah, it's nice to see Jennifer Love Hewitt back and Freddie Prinze Jr., but the character arcs for both characters, not very good, I'm going to be honest. Also, I won't go into spoilers, but also some of the events that happen later in the film or near the end of the film, you just think, really? Oh, we're all right with killing now, are we? Like, it's just the writing is like it was written by like a 13-year-old, and I know that's really harsh, but it's like, come on, do we not know how actual people behave? No. It's very, very convenient. It's quite cheesy, and as I say, some of the character developments, you just go, right, okay, we're doing that then, are we? There is a post-credit scene, which initially I was like, oh, okay, interested to see such and such here, but then again, it's ruined by just stupid dialogue. Like, yeah. The kills are okay, but I wouldn't say that they're particularly memorable in comparison to the deaths in the first two films, and even, well, the first film really. But even then, would those deaths be as memorable if those characters weren't played quite well in the first, film or second film? Maybe not. There's more to dislike, I think, about this than it is to like it. And I was looking forward to it because, it's a legacy sequel. Legacy sequels can be done quite well. Scream, for example, Scream 5, I suppose, is how it should actually be called. But yeah, I Know What You Did Last Summer. No, you don't. I'm going to give it 4.5 out of 10. I was initially going to go 5, but I sort of thought there is more that I dislike than I do like about this film. So, let's not sugarcoat it. Next up, Strange Harvest. Strange Le Harvest. Strange Harvest, a 2024 American mockumentary film. It's only just come out, though, which is a bit weird. Directed, written, and produced and edited by Stuart Ortiz. Set in the Inland Empire region of Southern California, the film centers around a detective pair on the trail of a serial killer called Mr. Shiny, who, after reappearing from a nearly 20-year absence, leaves cryptic clues at the crime scenes. Cast includes Peter Zizzo, Terry Apple, Andy Lauer, Matthew Pescio, Jane Accardia, Travis Wolfe Sr., and Christina Helene Bra. Okay, plot. Detectives Joe Kirby and Lexi Taylor recount their time working the case of Mr. Shiny, an elusive serial killer who committed a string of murders over 3 decades in California's Inland Empire. The first victim, a young woman, is found dismembered in the San Bernardino National Forest in 1993. Shortly after, a bedridden elderly man is bludgeoned and stabbed to death in his retirement facility. A third victim, a young boy named Noah Lafone, is abducted and found murdered in a bog with his liver removed. At the time, the 3 crimes are not assumed to be connected. July 2010, the Sheridan family are murdered in their home, bound at the dining room table and exsanguinated via cuts to their femoral arteries. The victim's blood is used to paint a strange symbol on the vaulted ceiling of the house. The killer subsequently murders a young woman in her home before burning her boyfriend Glenn's face with a blowtorch, severely disfiguring him. And it goes on from there. So the film is shot in a mockumentary style, a faux documentary. Very much like your documentaries you'd see on True Crime, Sky Crime, Netflix, those sorts of things. And it's very, very good in that. Think Horror in the High Desert, that style of film. The crime scenes, very, very grisly, like the prosthetic effects and whatnot for the victims, and some of the victims are disturbing, not just what's happened to them, but also the circumstances and who it's happened to. Very disturbing. But as a narrative story, it's like the sort of true crime documentaries that are paced well. I mean, obviously the true crime is talking about actual things that have happened, which is obviously very, very tragic and disturbing. But with this, it is paced well in terms of how the story develops and the different things that occur, and peppering in these elements of supernatural, because there is a supernatural element to this film, and how certain things are slowly revealed for interpretation without being, clearly said, this is what's happened, because obviously it's a documentary. A documentary wouldn't ever be saying, well, clearly this was a cosmic being who's been channeled from 800 years of slumber, that sort of thing. But performances in this were all pretty effective. There was no one that I felt was hamming it up, and sometimes in faux documentaries, people can really overdo it, which then takes the immersion out of it, and you kind of need to buy in if you're watching a faux documentary. Everyone does their job quite well, really. As I say, I like the pacing of it. It did feel like you were watching one of those sorts of shows. Yeah, I dug it. I don't really have too much more to say, because without kind of going into the story beats, you can't really say too much more other than if you like a faux documentary, and it's from one of the makers of Grave Encounters. I'd say give it a go, personally. In comparison to the previous film, it's much better. I think I'm going to give it... Yeah, I'm going to give it 7 out of 10. 7 out of 10 Strange Harvest. It's an interesting film. And I do quite like a good faux documentary in the true crime style. Strange Harvest, 7 out of 10. And then finally, I went to the cinema to watch Black Phone 2, Electric Boogaloo. Just feels like you have to say that after every time there's a second film in the series. So Black Phone 2 is a 2025 American supernatural horror film directed by Scott Derrickson, who co-wrote it with C. Robert Cargill. It serves as a sequel to The Black Phone. Film stars Ethan Hawke, Mason Thames, Madeline McGraw and Jeremy Davis, reprising their roles with Demian Bichir joining the cast. In October 1982, 4 years after Finney Blake killed the grabber, his sister Gwen begins having dreams where she sees murders that happened at Alpine Lake Camp in 1957. During one of the dreams, she receives a call from her mother, Hope, who at the time of the murders was having similar dreams. Determined to understand the truth, Gwen convinces Finney and Ernesto, the brother of the late Robin Arellano, to travel to Alpine Lake Camp, a Christian youth camp where Hope also worked as a teenager. When they arrive, a heavy blizzard traps them there with only a few others. The camp supervisor, Armando, his niece Mustang, and 2 camp employees named Kenneth and Barbara. 3 kids begin investigating what Gwen's dreams might mean. Okay, so if you've seen the trailers for this, you know that the grabber is back, but maybe more so in a Freddy Krueger-esque role. And that's something that we've discussed before in the horror news, that there is a... Well, there's always been the supernatural element in the first Black Phone, because the whole element of the Black Phone receiving calls from the deceased, the victims of the grabber. But spoiler alert for the Black Phone, the grabber meets his end, as mentioned at the very start of that blurb. So how is he back? Well, there's a lot of talk of hell and the afterlife in this, and that there are certain victims of his that have never been found, and because they are not at rest, that is then giving him power to, in a way, cross over. So the first thing I'll say with this is the trailers make it out to be like, well, this is going full on Nightmare on Elm Street. This is a slasher film, you know, where there's more of a mystery thriller element to the first film. This was looking in the marketing like a bit more of a slasher film. It's not. That's not negative, but I do think it's a little bit of a misstep. Now, we get some nice backstory to Finney and Gwen, their family dynamic, their mother. We get some more backstory to the grabber. We do get some information as to who they are. Not necessarily why they did what they did, but we do get some backstory there. I feel that's important to mention because as a sequel, this does work nicely as a nice companion piece to the first film. We are catching up with the characters and the turmoil they're encountering. Obviously, with Gwen in the first film, her dreams led to helping save Finney. I mean, Finney killed the grabber himself, but in terms of the police getting there and whatnot, it helped, you know, get the victims some justice. So she's now dealing with the fact that those dreams are getting more and more disturbing, and they're leading to sleepwalking, and they're also leading to instances where the dream world is transferring to the real world. So, as per Nightmare on Elm Street, injuries sustained in the dream world are affecting the real world. Idea being, if you can die in your dream, you could die in real life. So, that element was done quite nicely. I also feel that the performances in this were very good. We just didn't get enough of the grabber, and it's one of those things where you could automatically say, well, we have too much of the killer. The killer's not scary if you're seeing them all the time, if you're following the killer. But I kind of feel like there was a real opportunity to utilize this power that he has in the dream world, and that he's able to create instances affecting not just Gwen in her dreams, but also the other people there. I kind of feel like you could have had a little bit of a body count, and that felt like a missed opportunity to me. It's shot really nicely. It does have this 35mm feel to it. It's got this grainy feel, not just in the dream moments, but just generally. The setting is really good. And overall, it was decent. I just sort of feel like there was this missed opportunity to really lean into, oh crap, he's actually probably even more powerful now than he was when he was snatching kids and being a wrong 'un. You know, he now does not have the restrictions of being alive to stop him. So I do feel that more could have been done there. Overall, I enjoyed it. Works nicely with the part 1, but it could have been better. 6.5 out of 10. So, thank you very much for watching, listening, Ghouls and Fiends. The show's coming back to normality. I'm going to have a look at what we can do for alternate additional content. I want to get back into some more horror gaming. Game Pass, man, Game Pass is shot up. I cancelled it when I went away because Game Pass, like Shudder, I'm not going to be able to use it. So why am I going to pay for a month's worth of service while I'm away? Came back, went to join Game Pass again on Xbox. It had gone up from like $11.99 to $22.99. No. And the only games that I want to play that have been released while I've been away, neither of them are on Game Pass. Both are very expensive. You know, Silent Hill F is like £70. I'm not spending that. And Vampire the Masquerade 2, which has got janky reviews, but they've always got janky reviews. I would like to play that. Again, 50 quid. It's obviously not 70 quid, it's cheaper, but still. 50 quid for a game that's meant to be a bit janky. No more than 35 for me, my friend. So I'm certainly not going to pay for a service that doesn't have anything new coming on there that I would want. I think there are lower scales, but no doubt a lot of the games that I would play wouldn't be on those lower scales, you know. So yeah, is what it is. Anyway, Ghouls and Fiends, Michael Munster, well, thank you very much. I'm blathering on now. I need some more caffeine. Thank you very much for watching the Ministry of Horror. Be sure to follow on all of the socials. TikTok, Ministry of Horror. We're getting close to 800. Instagram, Facebook, X. Occasionally post on X, not very often. Also, me, Tez Elliott, TEZZELLIOTT. For any of the wedding stuff, if you want to see some of the posts there, give it a follow. Check out the Discord. Just reach out on socials if you want a link to the Discord. But that's where we have a lot of conversation, you know, throughout the week, and it's going to be getting a bit more active now that I'm back. Yeah, catch you guys later. Goodbye.